Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. Welcome back to this journey through the Tarot de Marseille with Sadhana. And today it's going to all be about the Batons court card. Sorry for the delay. I'm just pulling out decks and having a hard time figuring out how I'm going to approach this today. So we're going to look at page, knight, queen, and king, or valet, cavalier, Ren and Roi for the suit of wands. And honestly, oh my goodness, some of the decks I pulled out for you, this is just, it really is fun. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about the suit of fire. I will turn some of these cards around for you. Why don't we start with this one? Okay. Page, knight, queen, king. This is a Trionfi della Luna. And I've got lots of decks for you today, so this will be kind of fun. Hi, Clevis. Namaste. Welcome. I do have some, I do have one erotic deck as well today. So if that is offensive to you, I apologize in advance. The suit of fire. Honestly, this is one of my favorite suits, regardless of the tarot system. And I think we need to, in all of the suits, there is a need to reflect on the, oh my, a need to reflect on what the energy represents at multiple levels, right? So we have will, desire, charisma. And I think sometimes we forget the charm and the charisma that goes with these courts. These warm and these courts are full of personality. They I don't know, I feel like they can charm as easily as they can, grab your hand and take you into a salsa, as they can a dance. As they can inspire and get you going with a creative project and so forth. This suit is one of growth, and in some decks we see, like a club, and other decks we see more like a magic wand. And I think we need to remember that this is both a club. It is very powerful, and it depends how you wield it, right? So it can be wielded with tremendous force and violence, as it can be a spark of creative energy, as well as a tremendous, potent sexual symbol. This also is a suit that has us reflecting on, in more esoteric decks, and I'm going to look for this in some of the decks we're looking at today to see if there is that layer in. Actually, I do. I have one. It's called Esoterica. I can't even think what it is. It's kind of a Marseille deck. It's not a straight up Marseille, but what I'm thinking here is the suit of fire as life force energy, as chi, as prana, as kundalini energy. And that also is sexual energy. That is creative energy. I think we need to remember that energy is energy is energy. And the suit of fire is just full of, great companionship as well too. So welcome Dee, welcome Clevis, and those of you that are in the background, please join in the conversation today. So I want to talk a little bit about the nuances and the differences in energy, maybe compare and contrast some of these decks about what it is that we are looking at. And I think it would be good, I'm going to back out a little bit and put two decks on the table at a time, one more traditional and one. I think that will make it easier if we do it that way. One more contemporary. Okay. Andy, I do have that deck you asked about. I do have that on the table. I think it's the one you were talking about anyway. All right, so above is the Jodorowsky Camoin deck. Below is the Trionfi della Luna, the original version of it anyway. And lots of different name changes today in these decks. Yeah. So where do you want to start? Let's start with the page. Of course, some of these characteristics are consistent with pages in general. But one of the things that is quite different with the Page of Wands than the Knight of Wands and the Queen is that the page has the baton, for the most part, down into the earth. So the powerful wide part of the wand isn't active. This is it's a youthful, it's a naive energy. It is a beginner energy. It is not, I don't think it's capable of wielding this wand. It really doesn't know what to do with it. And I'm saying it, I guess traditionally it's a he, right? The page is a he. The page was the servant of the queen in the court. And the page energy has come in various tarots to be seen not just as a young boy, but as a girl, or more modern decks, more of a gender neutral. Oh, great. Thank you and it'd be great to compare and contrast. I don't have either of those decks out today. Okay, so pages. Not quite knowing what to do with the power. So I think it's really kind of safe that the page has this wand pointing down to the earth. Let me see how this feels. Notice as well, too, when I'm looking at this deck, the first thing that comes, we were talking about facings last week, is that the queen, the king, and the page are all kind of going forward. And you'll notice that the knight is taking off and going in a different direction. Now, Trionfi della Luna doesn't follow that, but it'll be interesting to see. In Jodorowsky's book, he talks about the knights as the fourth court. The knights are indeed leaving and taking off. And I really love this perspective. I've seen the knights portrayed, so I'm thinking about the Full Arcos Tarot, where the knights are the trails. And I love that descriptor for the knights, and they sort of lead you into the journey of the suit. That is the court that begins the energy of the journey into the suit. But I also see this as a mutable character. This is one that is taking you off and taking you off on your journey. So if you see what I mean, three of them are kind of going forward, and then the knight's going off in another direction. Now, if you look at the Trionfi della Luna, it's consistent that the knight is going to the left, but so is the queen and the king. So it's only the page that is different. So you might want to look at that in your decks, because I think that says something. Now, why Patrick has chosen to put them in these directions, right, Patrick? Yes, Valenza. I can't say, but I certainly am going to pay attention to that. In the Trionfi della Luna, I really feel kind of a Jack and the Beanstalk energy with the page. It feels like a fairy tale, youthful and adventurous. And, you know, there is a sort of a sense of wonder. When this deck that's going up on the top is the Marshmallow Marseille. And when I look at this particular page in the Marshmallow, it's like the baton is down as well, and the page is sort of gazing off into the sky and contemplating, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? I don't really have a plan. I have all this powerful energy in my hand. So let me get those there. It's great to look at all of them together. So we have something similar here. Sorry, there's the very small cards. But the horse, lots of artistic license here away from the traditional. So let's just keep an eye on that. But what I wanted to say initially was look at the page's wand down as opposed to the knight with the page's wand up. So there's this sort of progress from not quite sure what to do with it, and I'm going to keep it safe. I'm going to keep those sparks planted down into the earth, as opposed to I'm going to carry this and take off. Okay. Let's go to D. D says, the valet with the baton is held in both hands. Ah, maybe that is a Swiss style. All right. Now, I have talked about hand holding before, right hand, left hand. So also have a look at that. I would assume that all batons are held in the right hand, the active side, the side of power. But if you have a card that has a baton in a left hand, to me, that's going to say something kind of different. And so have a look. I'm going to go through the 12 that are here. So we have right hand, and this is left hand. This is left hand. Is this one left hand as well? Yes, it is. So, okay. Why would the knight have the baton in the left hand? Does that have to do with the aspect of the spiritual quest? Has the knight learned how to use the baton for the greater good? I don't know. You might read that, something like that, into the card. Now, the queen, right hand, queen, right hand, king, right hand, king, right hand. So check that out on your decks. D comments that he looks uncertain about trying to handle this big stick. Yes. And you can read that in any sort of way, any sort of connotation. And I think that's the general idea with the page. And when you can, if you have a Waite Smith deck out, you can compare, or a Waite Smith inspired, generally speaking, that page has no idea what to do with all this fire. There are a number of Waite Smith inspired decks where you see music. And I know that also the conductor has been used for queens and kings, particularly kings of fire. By the time we get to be the master of the element of fire, we are a conductor and everybody follows us. They know that we are using this particular tool to its highest potential. And there's something about this charismatic quality of the wand quartz that people follow. People love to follow this energy. It is attractive. Now remember, it is also light energy. So people do follow the light. It is warming, and people can be inspired by the light and by the energy. If we're talking about athleticism in any way, these are the team captains, right? So the page is perhaps the reluctant team captain, maybe the gifted player who hasn't quite embraced all of their skill, whereas the Knight of Wands looks more like a very aggressive polo player, and they would use that. They could use that baton to take out the knees of any of the horses in the polo match. D says the cavalier in Worth has the baton in his left hand. Okay, so same. Okay. Now let's look at that in these decks as well too. Does the horse of the cavalier of baton also look at the baton? I know when you say that, I'm thinking that is a common characteristic as well in all of these decks. That the head of the horse is looking at the baton, it's not charging forward. The head of the horse is turned. So the other piece with the cavalier is that what was I going to say? Oh yes. The cavalier is generally holding the ace of wands. I think this is different than in Waite-Smith. I think in Waite-Smith, it's the page that's holding the ace of wands. And the reason I say that is because for the most part, the valet, the page, has the wand down. So it looks quite different than it does in, so here's another one, right? So it looks like the, I'll show you this deck in a second. The cavalier has the cavalier carries the pure potential of the suit. I don't know if you've noticed that before, because I think that is a major difference between a Waite-Smith deck and a Marseille deck. So just look at the ones that are in hand right now and see if you agree or disagree with me. And I don't know, I may revise this thought, but I have always placed the pages as new beginnings, and I've really felt like the pages receive the gift of the ace. They don't quite know what to do with it. It's the beginning of the journey, but there's something about the physical shape and appearance of the batons in the cavalier cards that looks like aces. And I wonder, I didn't have this deck out last week. What color are they? I think they're brown. Okay, so here's our very colorful deck here. So this one is the same. Look, it's down, up, up. I don't know where the king is. Those are cups. Okay. Sorry, I didn't pull these ones out, but I was just curious what's going on here. So what do you think? There is the king, the roi. And again, even in this deck, this is the Pip Speak Tarot. The horse is looking back at the baton. And is it also in the left hand? Yes, it is in the left hand. So think about this. Why would the knight maybe it's not that complicated. Maybe the knight has the reins of the horse in the right hand because it's more important to control the horse, and the baton is more of a intuitive thing, doesn't need the control that the reins do, which are in the right hand. But I think there's something more to this, and that has to do with the knights as spiritual questers. Now, when I think about the Knight of Fire, and for me, the Knight of Fire has always been Sag, and the Knight of Cups is Pisces. And I think about these two and um, the spiritual questing of these signs, the spiritual, there's a mission, a very powerful mission here. And something with the Knight of Wands that has a tremendously passionate purpose. Maybe the horse and the knight are looking back because they know they may never see their family again. Short reigns. I don't see any reigns. I don't see any reigns in any of these decks. Maybe it's like the Chariot, it operates without, or yeah, maybe short reigns. Okay, so give that some thought. Let's comment on the queens and the kings, and then I'll pull over some more decks. One statement that came up the last few weeks was that in the Tarot de Marseille, the queens and the kings seem to be more of counterparts than in Waite-Smith decks. There are many Waite-Smith inspired decks where they feel completely disconnected. And one thing I do appreciate in a Marseille deck is that they seem to be from the same sort of generation. They are in a similar environment, that they somehow are a pair. And I know traditionally in the Marseille, the pop and the popess are a pair, and the empress and the emperor, the imperatrice and the emperor are a pair, are a counterpart to one another. And I'm not sure why I'm saying this, but it feels that it reinforces the notion that the queen is indeed, not the queen, the empress is indeed. So now now I'm confused. Now I'm talking about the emperor and the empress. But I want to extend this to the queens and the kings, that the queens and the kings in each suit come from the same family, and they are in the same environment, and they mirror each other. What I was saying about the emperor and the empress, I think also extends to a lot of decks where the kings and the queens of one suit don't seem to be, in alignment with one another. They're from completely different scenes, completely different places and villages. And so I appreciate this in the Tarot de Marseille. That's all. Now let's look at the queen, La Reine. Worth Reine has a very wand-like baton, not the clubs my other queens carry. She also has the wand in her left hand. Oh, okay. So that one is different then. So we have this is interesting, hey? Look at all of all of the minds, all of the talking, all of the voices, the energy following this queen. That's kind of haunting, isn't it? This is not a deck I have really worked with, and I'm not sure that I've noticed that before. So this is the queen that is known for her sexual energy. She is the one that has for the most part, has her knees open. And this has to do with her her ease as a leader and her charisma and her embracing of her fire. This queen to me feels very much in alignment with the woman in the Strength card. Very confident with the energy of fire. She is, for me, she's connected to the energy of Aries, and this places her as as important a leader as the King of Wands. But she has this real sort of no-nonsense quality about her. Nobody's going to mess with the Queen of Wands. She will inspire, she will get you going. She is super powerful, and she has this, like all of these quartz, they have this sort of magnetic energy about them. So I think we need to be careful of that. And the other side of this, of course, is that fire quality, if it is not allowed to thrive, and if it is not fed, then it can either go to the side of aggression and anger or turn to depression. And I think this is a court that we need to be careful with reading, because look, I want to really focus on the question and look at the surrounding cards. I think it's all too easy to let the Queen of Wands be just this happy, sexy party girl. And actually, Dee, I like that the Worth Wren has the baton in her left hand. The queens have that receptive quality about them. And so it would make sense to me that the queens had the baton in the left hand and the kings had the baton in the right hand. They lead from a different quality. They lead in a different way. Another thing too is that I find their energy is exhausting. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to be around this kind of energy, this boundless sort of Tigger energy. It can be really annoying to be with people who have so much fire all the time. Worth's queen, Worth's wren, is more circumspect with her wide leg posture, perhaps Worth being more of a mystic. He sees female power differently. Okay. All right, so shall we have a look at the erotic deck? And actually, there was one other one I wanted to share with you first. And I think I'm going to zoom in because they're little. These are the ones that Dee had asked about. Okay. Get my zoomer. Zoom, and go down. Okay. This is the Il Meneghello Soprafino. Where is the box? Tarocco Soprafino, Milano, 1835. This is the deck here. Is this the one that you were meaning? Okay, so in regards to the queen, I think what is really interesting in this deck is that her skirts are up. Not all the skirts are down. I find that, I like that. Oh, they got the wrong king here. No, isn't that interesting? He holds the seal. To me, this is fascinating because um, you know how there is this um, energy with wands and pentacles. Both wands and pentacles can represent work and money and finances. It has a little different connotation, but I love that this wand king is holding a coin. It's sort of a reminder of the power of action, and the power of drive, and the power of will can make something manifest. And I don't know if this is just a seal or what this is, but there's something here that really appeals to me in that these two aspects of, well, I'll call it work, appear in the master of this suit. And you'll notice in this deck as well, too, we have that consistent wand down for the page and wand up for the cavalier. So that's kind of cool. And then notice how the king, so let's get on to the king. The king has the phallus between his legs. It's almost like he's masturbating or something, right? I mean, it's in the wrong direction, but it's there. So there, I think in some very subtle and not so subtle ways, we are reminded of the power of this club. And my God, look how big this club is in the Cavalier di Bastoni. I'm thinking of, in golf, we use the word wood. I'm thinking of wood being used as a synonym for an erection. Yeah, wood. Nobles Rhone has naked breasts. Okay. All right. So do you want to see the erotic deck? This deck, it's not one I've worked with either. It is called, it is a, it's the Uusi one. It's the Uusi deck. The Uusi erotic deck. I think it's called the Garden of Eros. I'll show you the box. This one. Tarot. Here's the lid. Okay. Okay, so PG warning here. We have the Queen. And the King. This deck is so funny. Hi, Kim. Welcome. Okay, so we do have naked breasts in this one as well, too, for the Queen. And look at the Cavalier. It's almost as if the Cavalier has feminine thighs. Like, so how unusual to see that. Okay, so let's look at these. Consistently, the wand is down. The wand is up and up and up. Okay, so let's look at the hands. Left hand, I can't see. Both hands, and the Queen is left hand, and she's doing something really funny with her right hand, and the King has his left hand on the phallus and the right hand on another kind of scepter. So this deck really kind of mixes it up, but I think this is, I mean, all of the all of the Wands cards are phallic. So it's really fun. And I know this is a very common symbol in, this is the only erotic deck that I have. I don't have any of the contemporary ones like that. But yeah. So something that I want to remember and support queerance in readings is there's this aspect of with fire, you know, you want to embrace the fire. You want to, I mean, fire has to be managed because it can get out of control and all of that. But at the same time, I want in a reading more often than not to let fire, you know, just let it rip. Let this energy go. I want to really encourage this energy because I feel like there's a tendency in many queerants of over conservatism, carefulness, you know, sort of a worried energy. And so I love it when these courts are here, you know, it's like permission to let go and to dance and to be and to play and be creative and all of that. I haven't shared this deck with you before today. This is one of my favorite in my library, my small library. If you don't know this one, it is Tarot of Rivesaltes by Ben J. Gross. It's an Yves Renaud deck, 2020. This is the box. The box opens backwards, which gets me every time. That's why I've sort of taken off the paper on this side. And those are the card backs, and it has a lovely velvet lining to it. And I will share more of this deck in future episodes as well too. But let's look see if there's consistency with this deck. So page down, both hands. Looks like an Ace of Wands in the left hand. He is, isn't he? He's very grumpy. He's very grumpy. I wonder if the valet gets tired of being told what to do. I love the well-formed calves of the valet as well, too. Like he's so busy running around delivering everybody's messages that he gets to be quite strong. Ooh, and I also, you know, one of the things with this suit is I don't want to forget the athleticism that is also here, like that indomitable spirit also tends to present athletically as well too. So maybe that's why the page of Baston, the valet de Baston has athletic looking calves. I want to look at this queen. The face, the hair. Oh, yes. Can we talk about hair? All right, let's check out the hair of the queens. So hi Liv, if it is consistent, then the Queen of Wands should have free hair. Her hair should be blowing in the wind. And I was just thinking about it because I noticed it in this card. Why? Because she is kind of wild and free and does her own thing and nobody tells her what to do. She is the leader. And I would say a characteristic of all of these, perhaps except the page, is that they don't like to follow. They're better off as leaders. And they can get quite grumpy and aggressive if they're not first in the line, so to speak. So let's look at some of these queens. Trionfi della Luna, she doesn't have much hair, but it is kind of wild. That's the Cavalier. Okay. So I'm looking at these one by one. Hair is down. Hair is down and loose. Hair is down and loose. Probably sick and tired of running around with that huge baton. And then let's go underneath here as well too and look at the hair. You know, this was something that I picked up in you know, and this is kind of an well, I mean, this could be a transgender person too. I'm looking at the makeup and everything. But anyway, the hair is down, not as long. And I think it's interesting in these older decks too, how there is, you know, this is a very sort of Eastern European, older kind of look. And I have to say, you know, one of the things it's so nice to have cards. Okay, all of your queens have wild hair. It's so nice to have decks where everybody's not so pretty. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts when everybody has to be so darn good looking. I want to give you an example here. This is fun. Let's just for fun do this. So there is the Knight of Wands. This is one of the decks that gets thoroughly bashed for its court cards. I mean, there's a few good ones. Here's the Queen of Wands. What did I say this is called? Lumina Tarot. Lumina by Lauren Aletta. Artwork by Tegan Sweeney. I'll get you these. These are really something. And they're all super thin, and everybody's so pretty. I mean, if that's your definition of pretty. I mean, seriously. But you know what? I still have this deck because there's some things I really like about it, and I think it's great conversation. Not every deck, right? Not every card of every deck you're going to love. And there's a bunch of cards in this deck I actually really like. Now I forgot what I'm looking for. I'll find it. Maiden of Pentacles, King of Wands. Okay, so this King of Wands, look at him. He's got a silk scarf around his neck. Right? And he's got kind of an eclipse energy. That's interesting. And so the last one, I know these are not Marseille decks, but I think it's kind of fun to contrast, compare. You know, and another deck that I think is a little problematic is oh my goodness, what's it called? They're all so thin and beautiful, but it's a really great Pip deck. And I did a video and I compared the Star Seeker and Field. Is it Field and Fountain? Field and Fountain. Sorry, I can't find the page. One more quick little scan. Yeah. So what does this say? What does this say about this suit? I think that embracing all and working with as many of the characteristics of the element are really important. And when we actually get to a point where we're doing readings, I'm really going to focus on question development. Now, why that is so important is that there are so few people in Tarot de Marseille. And one of the reading methods of Tarot de Marseille, of course, is to only read the majors. And there's different ways. It's like I've lost it. Maiden of. Okay, I don't know. Doesn't matter. So the question is really important because there's so few people in the tarot. So we need to know what it is we're looking for and what it is that we're seeking. And I think in extension, this makes the court cards so very important in the Tarot de Marseille. It's like they are able to come to life more. They're not just these difficult secondary cards. Do you know what I mean? So just a few thoughts from Sadhana. Yeah. Okay. I think that's. Is there anything else you want to say about these wands? My plan is down below in the description box. So next week we're going to look at just the. I don't know what the plan is. I'm sorry, I don't have YouTube open. Probably just the queens. So next week we'll look at the queens of every suit, and then we can compare their body language, their sexuality, their hair, their faces, the way they stand or sit and move, the direction they're facing, and all of that. Okay, so next week, but double check, it's down below. So I'm going to go court, suit, court, suit, court, suit. That's the plan for this 8-week segment. Okay. Yeah, me too. I really, and this is so, and I don't know if this is a language thing, because honors, I don't know where the origin of that comes from, that term for the court cards. But when I was reading lots of European website material, I was trying to find the spelling of honors with a U, and everywhere it's just Honors. And I was originally spelling it with a U as well. I know that's British and American English thing, but I'm always curious about spellings. And I did learn something about ROY and ROI. Do you know the difference between ROY and ROI? Because if you spell king in modern French, it's ROI, not ROY. So again, this is just another another variation. And also look at this particular card. It's not Batons, it's Baston. So I find these little dynamics of region and decade. It's so fascinating. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for joining me in these chats, and I will see you next Saturday for more of the Tarot de Marseille honors. Take good care of yourselves. Namaste.